I am so rubbish at plot summaries, so I'll just skip. Also, this is a review for people who have read the book and already know the story, because I am definitely gonna spoil stuff, so please don't make me do a book summary. I'll just do that very quickly, but I'll go in depth later. So basically there's this gem, the Moonstone. It gets gifted to a young girl on her 18th birthday. At this dinner party, everybody's like, oh my god, that's such a valuable gem, or whatever. Oh, would it be crazy if somebody stole it? And then it gets stolen. There's much more about that than this, but this is the inciting incident. By the way, my name is Vero, this is Vero Reads, and we'll be talking about The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. What I want to talk about is, first of all, is this a detective novel? I don't think so. I think this is better described as a mystery novel. Why? Because the detective is really not that big of a part of the story. It's just one of the people in the cast of characters, one of the people trying to solve the mystery of the Moonstone. He gives a lot of clues, but so do a lot of other people. So that's why I mean where it's not a detective story. It is definitely a mystery story, but I would personally not classify it as a detective novel. But it might be a proto-detective novel, you know, like one that will then lead to what we know now as the detective novel. Talking about the mystery, I found this book a bit too repetitive. It really felt like Wilkie Collins was being paid by the page, if you know what I mean. It was originally meant to be serialized, so I understand that reading it all at once might not have the same effect as reading this in the course of a year or even more. But again, reading it on its own, it felt very repetitive, it felt very long-winded. Because there were a lot of times where there was one chapter that was a sequence of events, and then in the next chapter you had somebody reporting the exact same sequence of events and then adding one or two extra informations. There were a lot of recaps, and reading it all in one go was very frustrating at times, but not to the point where I wanted to put down the book. Which that's saying something as well, because aside from the mystery, this book really stands on its characters and its character voices. Of course, we have the butler Betteridge, great character voice, great character. You could really feel him as a person, a very flawed but also quaint and kind of lovable person. It's a 70-year-old man that's obsessed with Robinson Crusoe and really hates his late wife. Or even the voice of Miss Clack. It's these almost farcical characters that are there to make this very long exposition of facts enjoyable. I do believe that an omniscient third-person narrator would really make this a very boring novel, but because Wilkie Collins has chosen to make this a told narrative, a recounted narrative, we get the voices of these characters, we get the pathos of it, but we also get the irony of it, the funny bits and the dramatic bits all at once. What really elevates the novel is the masterful way in which Wilkie Collins showcases the characters that are in the novel. In terms of how the mystery was kind of brought along and interwoven, as I said, it's not that strong, but it still keeps you going, and it is reasonable, if we can use that word. There's a lot of red herrings, there's a lot of misunderstandings and misdirections, but they're all there to very effectively bring the story along. Everything is justified. It is a bit too thoroughly justified, in my opinion, and that's my gripe with mysteries that I've mentioned in past videos, that it is the author being like, see, this is airtight, like it feels like a puzzle more than a novel, which for some people is what they're looking for. I'm looking for a novel, and I don't care if there's something that's a bit vague, if it makes sense on a story level. But having the same thing repeated over and over and over again just to give justification to, and that's why he did it. You could have just told me once, I would trust you as an author. But I understand that that's not what mystery readers want. Mystery readers might be less forgiving than I am to an author that just gives a plausible but not airtight justification to why the crime happened in this way. And that kind of took away from a good novel, in my opinion. It felt at times that there were characters that were there just to justify the mystery and the direction that it was gonna take. For example, like Ezra Jennings, it really felt like it was, I need to explain the opium thing. But again, I don't care that it was a bit out of the blue or a bit far-fetched, because the character of Ezra Jennings was so intriguing. And I think Wilkie Collins made him that intriguing on purpose, because he was like, oh no, I have made no reference whatsoever to this man before now. I need to make him very interesting, and I need to make his story very compelling and very captivating, so people forget that he's just a plot device, basically. Which I'm not mad at, because it works. And also because as a modern reader, there were some homoerotic subtones that I really enjoyed. I really shipped Ezra Jennings and Franklin Blake. Their like insta love was so nice. Of course, it was based on just like my fandom brain and like my fanfiction ad-lib brain, but it was a very nice character brought about just to explain one plot device and for no reason at all, and maybe to give some dramatic weight to the story, because towards the end we spend so much time creating these misdirections that the mystery itself lost a bit of importance in my mind. I just wanted to know the facts, and I didn't care about the atmosphere, I didn't care about the characters' feelings, I didn't care about the stakes of the situation, because towards the end there were no stakes. That's the thing. Like, okay, the Moonstone is lost. This is still a very rich family. Like, there's no, like, nothing hinges on this Moonstone. The Moonstone is recovered. Okay, well, there is a very good solution on how to keep these Indians, Brahmins at bay by cutting it in Amsterdam and making it invaluable to them. So it's like, there really is no stakes towards the end. There's no family reputation at stake. I think it's because nobody was shunning Miss Rachel because they thought she had the Moonstone. There was no pressure on actually finding out what happened to the Moonstone. It was just the title of the book. But, you know, I don't know. It really was not a good novel. It was a good mystery, but not a good novel, which is my gripe with mystery novels. Talking about the Indians, I expected slightly better. Maybe I shouldn't have, because this is 1868. But I was expecting a little bit better. But I also was expecting a lot worse. Like, I've read later books that were way more racist than the Moonstone was. The main racism in the Moonstone is the orientalism of it all. It's this portrayal as India being an exotic and wild and unpredictable place, and the people from that place being exotic, wild, and unpredictable. It's really dehumanizing to Indian people because they're just seen as foreigners with strange customs that have a very different moral, humane compass than the Englishman, you know. There isn't demonization of the Indian characters. They're portrayed as just being very devout. They're not like mindless killers. They're not masterminds. They're just on a mission. And it is just also a plot device. It is easier to just have somebody that's an antagonist and that's a complication to the story, and it's very one-dimensional and you don't have to explain it much. But yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought, but I wish it was a bit better. Even the character of Ezra Jennings was quite complex one, because it is described as mixed race. His story is really not explained at all, because we were towards the end of the novel, and because a halo of mystery is more intriguing than a biography, you know. But he was clearly despised by everybody, but also portrayed in a way that people who were mistrustful of him were in the wrong. And especially people who were mistrustful of him on account of his appearance. So there is a message of you shouldn't judge by somebody's appearance, but it wasn't as strong a message as I would have liked. Same thing with Rosanna Spearman. Again, it's just easy to have somebody be there as a plot device than for somebody to be an actual character. But once again, Rosanna Spearman and Limping Lucy's friendship, I was there for it. Lucy was clearly in love with Rosanna Spearman. I don't care about Victorian values. Lucy loved Rosanna, and her her devotion to her friend was very nice. And it was a very well characterized moment of when Lucy executes the last will of Rosanna, but in a very spiteful way. I relate a lot to Lucy. But yeah, so we had two characters, Rosanna Spearman and Limping Lucy. They both have disabilities. They both have very visible disabilities as well. They both are portrayed as being complex characters, but at the same time, they really get pigeonholed, if I can use that word in that way, to just them being disabled. Like, for example, with Rosanna Spearman, I would have preferred if instead of constantly saying, oh, of course, Franklin Blake would never look at Rosanna Spearman. She's deformed, ugly, and also poor. Why couldn't it just be that she was a servant and he was a gentleman? Like, that's enough. That's fully enough. Why couldn't she be incredibly pretty but also disabled? And again, I don't know, maybe it's the Victorian language that when I see ugly, they just mean plain. So, I don't know. I don't know how much of it is my modern sensibilities. Maybe at that time, this was a very progressive novel, and the language that was used was very intentionally wanting to be progressive and to give a peculiar example of disability as not evil, because in the Victorian times, your outer disability showcased an inner moral evilness. So maybe that was the case. But from, again, my modern sensibilities, it read as not enough. Again, not too bad, all things considered, but not enough. I think there are other Victorian authors that do a much better job to push against the narrative of discrimination against disability and discrimination against not white people. I think overall those are my main thoughts about the Moonstone. I really like Wilkie Collins' way of writing though, so I will definitely read some more of him. The Woman in White was excellent in my opinion. I don't know why this one is one of his most famous novels. Maybe just because of the mystery part of it, because again, it is a very airtight mystery. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy it that much. I could see how masterfully written it was, but that was it. I'll definitely read more of him, and then I'll see if I just like The Woman in White or if I like Wilkie Collins overall. This was just my thoughts on this book. Please let me know if you've read this book and what you think about it. Let me know, do you think it's racist and ableist? If so, why? If not, why? And recommend me other Wilkie Collins books that I might enjoy. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.